Hi, Gordon. So you've sent us another set of essays. Let's take a look at what you've done here. This is one about technology. So here's what you said. With the ever-increasing advancements in technology, we cannot live without our smartphones, as technology is placing a tremendous transformation on one's life. Okay, there's some awkwardness in this sentence in a handful of places. I don't like on one's life. It should just be on our lives, okay? Because you said we cannot, so it should be on our lives. We also don't say that technology places a transformation. You could say that technology is causing a tremendous transformation. Okay? So that's a couple of things regarding vocabulary. And now, on top of that, the way you structure this sentence is a little strange, because here you're talking about technology, and then you're talking how we can't live without our phones, and then you're talking again about technology transforming our lives. So it's kind of like you've gone back and forth in this sentence. So I'd like to fix it and change it into something a little different. Let's see if we can try to rephrase it. Maybe something like, with the ever-increasing advancements in technology, we cannot live without our smartphones, full stop. Honestly, I mean, I don't even think you need to say this. Of the advantages brought by the techs. I don't know what you mean by this. Techs. What are the techs? The technicians? I mean, we don't talk about technology like this, so try to rephrase that. One significant impact. Yeah, here it is again, technology. So let's try this again. Of the advantages brought about by technology, one significant impact is the enhanced interaction between individuals. Hence, I believe technological innovation has made us more social. Nice, that's good. Okay. Regarding the communication tools, get rid of the, okay? You don't need it. There are very specific times when we use the in front of plurals. If you're not familiar with when those times are, then please do look it up. Okay, so regarding communication tools, technological innovation has brought people closer. For example, given the invention of Skype, people can keep in touch with their friends. The invention of social media, such as Facebook and Instagram, provide a handy tool for ones to catch up with updates of their friends through browsing newsfeed effortlessly. This should be plural, news feeds. These technological breakthroughs eliminate the distance between, not each other, between people, and develop a stronger bond among friends beyond distance. Okay, you just said distance, so try not to use the same word in the same sentence, okay? Let's see. I think you could have said a little more here. All right. You've talked about social media, but you haven't really, you've just talked about how social media informs us. You haven't talked about how it makes us more social. Okay. So yeah, we're keeping up to date with our friends' kind of ongoings and so forth, but you haven't really told us how this makes us more social. So I think you could have developed this a little more. I think it needed a little more development. Okay? All right, let's move on. However, on the flip side, some may, I like this expression, that's good, because you didn't use on the other hand, which is what a lot of people do. And I'm glad you did that. So, however, on the flip side, some may claim that technology makes us alone. Careful with alone. Alone is literally, like without other people. I think what you really want to say here, a more precise word would have been isolated. Okay? So, an explanation for this point is that people focus solely on their phones and they lack the real-life interaction between people. Yet, we cannot instill and judge a modern phenomenon using the stereotype of earlier generations. Lacking face-to-face interaction without the A may not be a great deal. I don't know what you mean here by a great deal. If people are comfortable in their lives with their phones, it is still acceptable to live without real-time interactions. On top of that, in the past, people would live lonelier given the absence of instant communication tools. Hence, despite the fact that using smartphones causes loneliness sometimes, it has made us more social compared with the past. Okay. Let me think about this. Okay. In conclusion, it is firmly believed that technology goes a long way towards bridging our relationships. It is hoped that, here, why don't we do this? It is hoped that further innovation in technology will bring us a more connected life. Okay? So, some grammar stuff, some lexical stuff that I wanted you to change, and I've told you what I think needed to be revised a little bit. Okay, so you have some feedback on those grammar and lexical items. I want to talk about this paragraph a little bit because this kind of confused me. I understand that you're talking about the flip side, and you're talking about how there's this idea that it makes us more isolated, and I understood that that's what you're talking about. And then here you said this, we cannot instill, this instill is the wrong word, first of all, okay? So let's ignore that for a second and say, yet we cannot judge a modern phenomenon using the stereotype of earlier generations. I liked that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. But then you lost me. What did you mean by this? Lacking face-to-face interaction may not be a great deal. And then here, I mean, how were you really supporting this? It almost sounded like you were justifying, like, look, if people are happy just being alone on their phones, then so be it. That's kind of what it sounded like you were saying. But you weren't really arguing what I thought you were supposed to argue. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So the idea is that you should have been arguing here this idea that, you know, yeah, okay, it's believed that smartphones make us less social, but no, in fact, they don't. They make us more social. So you didn't really do that here. It almost was like you were saying, yeah, it's made us less social, but so what? We're happier this way. So that's not really what you were supposed to be talking about here, okay? I hope that made sense. I really do. I'm not sure if it did. But I saw a lot of things that I liked. I saw a nice naturalness of expression, which is really good. And your ideas flowed together nicely, and a lot of nice grammar too, okay? Like a lot of nice high-level grammar too, like if people are comfortable, etc., etc. I mean, this is nice stuff. So you've got really good, as I like to say, bones. You have a nice skeleton here. You have some nice elements for your writing, but what we have to do is we have to tweak everything to make it really all come together. All right? Let's take a look at your other task. Okay, so let's check out the shoe sales in Europe. Here's what you wrote. The line graph illustrates, it's not a line graph, careful. This is a bar chart, so careful with that. All right, you have to express it correctly. So the bar chart illustrates the number of shoes sold in 9 European countries in 2018. It's not an essay, careful. So let's change this. Let's see. Let me read what you wrote first of all. This essay talks about the trend between the sales of leather and the popularity of this kind of shoes among the 9 countries. No, get rid of this. You don't need this. This is not necessary. This is not part of your introduction. So this is wrong, and I want to remove it. Keep this where you introduce it. Now, what needs to come next is either your overview, where you give us the main trend for this bar chart, or you could just leave the introduction and then just start with the details. Personally, I prefer when the overview comes directly after the introduction. I have a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to get into. But that's one thing you could have done here. Okay. You chose not to. You just wrote this, but I want to get rid of this. So now let's see what else you wrote. In 5 countries, namely France, Germany, Ireland, Poland, and Holland, people there preferred brown leather over black leather. In particular, there were approximately 130,000 brown leather shoes, careful, purchased, which was the highest among the 9 countries. Where? The highest? You didn't tell us. You just told us 5 countries, but you didn't tell us which country purchased 130. You have to assume that the examiner does not have the graph in front of him or her, okay? You have to write this as if you are describing this to, you know, somebody who doesn't have it in front of them, and you have to describe it in such a way that the person can understand what you are looking at without actually seeing it, okay? So, plus France sold the least black leather as well as what? That doesn't make sense. With just around 25,000 sales. Okay, so I'm a little confused here. You're talking about brown leather, and then you told us, you were supposed to tell us who sold the most brown leather, and then all of a sudden you're telling us that France sold the least black leather. So I don't understand where you're going with this. I don't understand your organization so far, I gotta be honest with you. The rest of the 4 countries, no, it's not the rest of the 4 countries, the remaining 4 countries, okay? Namely UK, Belgium, Hungary, and Italy had more black leather sales than brown leather sales. In Hungary, the number of black leather shoes sold was the highest of all kinds, and the number of brown leather shoes sold was the least of all kinds. That's very repetitive, okay? The highest of all kinds, the least of all kinds, had more black leather shoes than brown leather shoes. Okay, you need to be using some cohesion here, some pronouns, some other types of cohesive devices, so you're not repeating the same language over and over. Of the countries listed, Hungarian, no, because you're talking about countries, not people. So Hungary, and I don't really like this word fascinated. Just because they bought more brown or black leather shoes, it doesn't mean they found them fascinating. It just means they bought more. Okay, so you can't make that kind of judgment here. So let's try it again. Of the countries listed, Hungary, or how about people in Hungary, purchased the most, what? Was most fascinated by the leather, where 250,000 leather shoes were sold. Are you talking about the total? Okay. I don't really care for this sentence. On the other hand, leather shoes were the least popular in Belgium and France, were only a record. You don't want to use the word record, because record implies a high, and you're not talking about a high, because you're talking about the least. So what you really mean is where only a figure of 110,000 leather shoes were sold. Okay. Now, I don't know, Gordon, if you've ever written a task 1 before, but this this task 1 for me needs a considerable amount of work. Let's see. First of all, let's look at this overview, because apparently this was your overview. I can't really determine an overview anywhere. Now, let's talk about what your overview should be. Your overview should essentially mention the most obvious trend, the most obvious thing, something that really sticks out. No, for me, what really sticks out here, what sticks out for me the most is that the most popular, or how about not the most popular, but the most purchased shoes were black leather shoes in Hungary, and the least were brown leather shoes in Belgium. All right, that sticks out to me quite a bit. All right, so that's something you could have written for an overview. What you do also in an overview is you don't want to mention any data. And that's why I'm saying that I couldn't really find an overview here, because here you did mention data, and you don't want to do that in an overview. So without a clear overview, you're not going to get a 6 in task achievement. Okay? So, as I said before, I would have kept this sentence the way it is. I would have gotten rid of this next sentence, and then I would have said, of the 9 countries in question, the greatest number of shoes sold were black leather in Hungary, and the least shoes were brown leather in Belgium. Okay? Then you go into your detailed paragraphs, and there are a handful of ways you could have done this. You could have talked solely about black leather shoes. Okay, and there are a couple of ways you could do this. One thing that I like to do is I like to use these figures along the side, because they kind of act as they give me ranges to work with. So I would have said that Hungary had the highest shoes sold of any type at whatever that number is. Okay, figure it out. Followed closely by Italy at this and Belgium at this. And then use these numbers along the side and talk about a range. So then you could say between 50,000 and 100,000 black leather shoes were UK, Germany, Ireland, blah, blah, and blah, blah. Okay, whatever those countries are. And then you could just say only France sold less than 50,000 shoes at this number. Then you do the exact same thing with brown leather shoes. Okay, so you talk about the 4 countries that all sold over 100,000. Okay, then you briefly mention these 3 that were between 50 and 100, and only Belgium sold whatever that is, like 10,000 or 20,000 brown leather shoes. And then you're done. Okay, so that's one way you can organize this really easily. You can talk about everything but not spend too much time talking about the wrong things. So I hope that helps. Let's see what you do when you rewrite this. I'll be waiting for it. Okay, so good luck.